Welcome to the Stephen Mansfield Podcast.
Well, welcome to the Stephen Mansfield Podcast. I want to cut right to the chase and talk about something that I think is going to create a crisis in 2019. Now, if you listen to this podcast often, you know that I have been concerned about the degree to which religious conservatives have pretty blindly and in some cases mindlessly supported Donald Trump. Now, don't misunderstand. I'm right of center, and I am glad for a lot of what Trump has done, a lot of what his administration has accomplished. I am glad for the move of the embassy to Jerusalem. I am glad for the appointment of the Supreme Court justices. I am glad for the basic pro-life stand. I'm glad for a lot of other policies. I am grieved, though, as I think many of you are, by Donald Trump's manner, his language, his adolescence in his Twitter life, his just almost racist attitudes about some folks, mentioning race, talking about race, speaking ill of people who are of certain races, the chaos the executive branch is in. Basically, Donald Trump's manner as president is helping to rip up this country. It's causing great division. It's causing great offense. It's losing souls and minds and hearts to traditional American values and a conservative vision for the country. And it's causing a great deal of damage. So I've been grieved by that. And I've been very disturbed, as I've said often, by the way religious conservative leaders in particular have beat a path to cameras to defend Donald Trump at his most immoral and disgusting moments. When we heard the Access Hollywood tape, for example, in which he was talking about grabbing women by their privates and what he could do to women, religious conservatives beat paths to cameras, and some of them who had been long-term preachers of righteousness and sexual morality said, well, boys will be boys. They did it basically because it was Donald Trump and they were hoping for a Trump victory. So they winked at his immorality. And we've seen this time after time after time, defending him, protecting him, explaining him away, when the very people doing this, the religious conservatives doing this, should be people who stand up for morality, no matter who is violating those moral boundaries. Now, all of this to say that this has all been a crisis and it's all been a concern to me. But what's going to put us even more in crisis is what's happened recently. It turns out that while the Russian investigation did almost nothing, has laid almost nothing at Donald Trump's door, that what is coming to the fore and what does put him in violation of the law are payments that apparently he either ordered or approved to two women he had affairs with. I'm not going to say their names here in this podcast, but you know there's a porn star and there's a Playboy playmate that he apparently had affairs with, and he ordered hush money payments to them. They enlisted media outlets to buy their stories, and then those media outlets sat on those stories and didn't publish them. That basically issued a gag order, so to speak, or gagged the women, but it also sat on the story and kept it from going public when he was running for president. Since this was done during the campaign, since he ordered it, since it was done in a clumsy way, it's very likely that he violated campaign laws. Now, like you, I wish almost all of this stuff would go away so we could get on to the running of the country. But now it turns out he has probably done something and lied about it that is a violation of the law. Well, this kind of behavior and this particular issue is going to place the religious conservatives who have supported him so fully, and let's remind ourselves, 81% of white evangelicals, half of all regular church attenders, and half of all Roman Catholics in this country supported him. But I believe that's starting to fray. I believe that's starting to weaken. I believe that many religious conservatives are starting to look at him, and they've read Bob Woodward's book Fear, where they've noticed the vile language and the attitudes towards women and the virtually open marriage with Melania, where he pretty much says she won't care if I have affairs. That's not really the issue. And all of these things that are counter to what Christian conservatives believe, that's placing them in crisis. But what's going to happen now is that we head into 2019, religious conservatives are going to start taking a second look at Trump. When he was running against Hillary Clinton, he looked at them like the only option, and so they voted for him, many of them holding their nose to do so. But now they're going to begin to realize that this man is causing great damage in this country. They're grateful for some of his policies. They're grateful for some of his commitments. But the way he is doing things, his manner, his language, his attitudes, his adolescence on Twitter, he's damaging the country, and they're going to begin to look for somebody else. And here's where the crisis is happening. I am not predicting, by the way, that evangelicals and religious conservatives are going to completely abandon Donald Trump, but they're going to hope for somebody else. They're going to start looking around and saying, if we wanted to support somebody else, if we wanted to run somebody who holds our values but is an adult in public life, who would it be? And that's where we've run into crisis. Because the fact is that the Republican Party as a whole and the conservative movement in general has been so focused on Trump and getting on the Trump train that it has not looked for alternatives. It has not valued moderates. It has not valued people who hold traditional American values but who are adults in public. I would say that Senator Sass from Nebraska is one of these guys. I would say that John Kasich from Ohio is one of these people. And they're moderates, so they're not going to make everybody happy all the time. But they are people who are adults. They are people who are right of center, as I am. They are people who speak well, lead well, and are compassionate and hold Christian values. And I say that only to say, and not that I'm saying that you can't be a good Jewish person in office, for example. Obviously, you know I believe otherwise. But that when I say hold Christian values, I mean they don't just give lip service to it, but they really believe in conducting themselves in the way that Jesus modeled. Well, that's coming into crisis. So who would religious conservatives turn to? We've got to begin to encourage the rise of a broader leadership than just Trump. We've got to begin to encourage other people. We've got to begin to look at the broad traditional American values conservative movement and not just localized victories for the Republican Party. It grieves me when I read the articles in which religious conservative leaders are asked why they support a man like Donald Trump when he's so immoral. And they say, and this was clearly said, because he gives us access nobody else has given us. So they, in a sense, are compromising at times their values, not giving the counsel to the president they ought to, not extolling public morality like they ought to, because he gives them access. Essentially, he listens to them, invites them to dinners, and puts them on platforms and has them pray at inaugurations. But where is the prophetic stand? Where is the bold as a lion morality? Where is the use of the counselor to the bully pulpit? The righteous, moral, godly counselor to the bully pulpit. That's what I want to know. And so now we're heading into crisis. Religious conservatives are starting to question Donald Trump. They're going to be offended by the fact that he actually, during the campaign, paid off women who he had affairs with and then lied about it while he was president. This is going to be a crisis. It's not just going to be a legal crisis, though it could be. It's going to be a crisis that's going to cause a lot of religious conservatives to back away. And at that point, we may have to grow up and start thinking in terms of a broader movement than just the narrow movement that we've had, which is completely aligned on the Trump train. I want to see a bold, magnificent, right of center, traditional values movement that wins the next generation to the genius of the American system, that wins the next generation, that is fair and the opposite of racist and cheers women on and does so from the base of traditional values and the glories of the American system. And I'm not sure Donald Trump even understands that system. But again, I have to say, just to be careful, because I know some of you get upset with me when I talk this way, I'm right of center, so I'm happy about a lot of what he's done. But his manner is damaging us, and his immorality now might not only be damaging us, but might be landing him in serious legal trouble. So we're coming to a crisis. And I respect Mr. Pence, but I got to tell you, he's been sleepy during this administration thus far. If he steps to the fore, that would be fine. But there are others, and it's time for us to face the fact that we're coming to a crisis and begin to consider the health of the broader traditional American values conservative movement. There's a crisis coming, but it's a good crisis. It's an opportunity for us to reconsider. It's time for us to consider that both the Republican Party and the conservative movement are broader than the Trump train, better than the Trump train, and will outlast the Trump train. What will that look like? Well, let's begin to consider that as we continue to try to see a renewal movement in American society.
Stephen Mansfield is a New York Times best-selling author, a popular speaker, and a frequent faith and culture commentator on Fox and CNN. His groundbreaking books on faith and society include The Faith of George W. Bush, The Search for God in Guinness, Mansfield's Book of Manly Men, and Lincoln's Battle with God. Learn more at stephenmansfield.tv.